The newest entry in Bandai Namco's nonsensical action puzzle series has converted me from a Katamari appreciator to a Katamari fan. Once Upon a Katamari is a joyous return for the long-stagnant series, bringing with it a number of clever levels and small tweaks that make moment-to-moment gameplay more fun. A tighter narrative, more engaging overworld, customization features, and updated visuals help set the game apart from its predecessors, while its playful writing and whimsical nature retain that distinctly Katamari feel. While Once Upon a Katamari might stumble a bit when it comes to innovating, the end result is a highly polished and fun new entry in the Katamari series. Once Upon a Katamari kicks off the way these things so often do, with our beloved King of the Cosmos doing something tremendously stupid. During one of the royal family's cleaning days, the King of the Cosmos stumbles upon a peculiar scroll. What ensues is an embarrassingly relatable sequence of events, as the king grows distracted by the scroll, decides he'd rather be doing literally anything other than cleaning, and ultimately ends up hurling the object into space. Naturally, this action winds up destroying the entirety of the cosmos, prompting the king to recruit you, the prince, to help fix this even larger mess. The prince is then tasked with traveling back in time aboard his spacecraft, the SS Prince, to capture humanity's essence in Katamari form. The mission ultimately takes you to over 50 levels spread across 9 distinct eras, including everything from Japan's Edo period to the Ice Age in ancient Greece. This setup, plus the addition of short cinematics throughout, makes for a much tighter narrative from the Katamari series. And while it might not sound particularly grand in scope or scale, this loose, silly framework feels like precisely what the series needs to be both engaging and absurd. In addition to selecting which era or level you'd like to go to via the SS Prince, you can also use the ship's amenities to customize your character with the items and character models you find, and adjust the look of your room. Though there's not too much you can do on board, the ship's inclusion is a nice touch and makes the game feel more complete. The same can be said for character customization. It isn't a robust process, but being allowed to create and name your own cousin, the iconic little characters found trapped in various levels in every Katamari game, is utterly delightful. Eras and levels are unlocked at a brisk pace as you play, with each completed Katamari also helping to generate the fuel you need to travel to a new point in time. A few levels require you to find specific items throughout the game to unlock them, with the required items generally being the 3 crowns hidden in every course. The nice thing is, you do have some say in which levels you want to do. While I was a bit of a completionist, you don't need to get all 3 crowns in every single level to progress, which means you can choose to largely ignore levels that you might find mundane or difficult. Gameplay remains fairly unaltered in Once Upon a Katamari. Once again, you are able to choose between standard or simple controls while rolling your Katamari, with standard mode requiring constant use of both analog sticks and simple mode being a bit more streamlined. Regardless, navigating across junk-covered floors and narrow alleys full of bustling people is just as clunky and chaotic as ever, but that only makes getting better at doing so all the more satisfying. The biggest change to gameplay comes with the addition of items or freebies, which consist of 4 objects: a magnet, a stopwatch, a sonar device, and rockets. Each item's power is fairly self-explanatory. The magnet attracts objects, the sonar helps you locate key items, the stopwatch pauses time, and the rockets give you a speed boost. And all are relatively helpful. That said, I found myself wishing that there were more of these items and more to them. One of the best parts of a Katamari game is when you reach that point where you start to feel all-powerful, when the once too large to roll up structures impeding your fun get sucked up into it. Literally. These freebies fail to introduce the level of chaos and power I was hoping for. They're short and sweet little perks, sure, but they don't really revolutionize gameplay. However, everyone knows the real charm of Katamari lies in its levels, and rest assured that those in Once Upon a Katamari are an absolute blast to play. Infectious J-pop, or more soothing instrumental music, depending upon the era, accompanies each course and always seems to bring the exact energy you need. Objects and stages are thoughtfully and humorously designed and are visually splendid. The general conceits of most levels are also extremely funny and make for memorable experiences. The best of these levels are the ones that break expectations or amplify the game's themes of rediscovering and celebrating our history. For example, one course set in ancient Greece entitled Philosopher Hunt tasks you with finding a handful of famous philosophers on the map. As you roll them up, a large portion of your screen's real estate is then taken up by one of their famous quotes. My personal favorite level, Lots of Yokai, tasks you with rounding up demons to join the Night Parade of 100 Demons, a procession described in Japanese folklore. The entire level takes place in the dark and relies on you finding and rolling up eerie blue lights to better illuminate the map. Once Upon a Katamari also introduces a new multiplayer mode, Katamari Ball. In it, you're tasked with collecting items and then bringing them back to your spacecraft to be beamed up, while 3 other opponents do the same. Though the mode is introduced during a random level that sees you face off against AI opponents, it seems as though that was merely the teaser for what will be an entirely online experience. As the servers were not yet open, I couldn't experiment too much with this feature, but what I did play seemed pretty fun. Yet as enchanting and inventive as these levels were, the downside of their existence is that they made me aware of how simplistic the majority of Once Upon a Katamari's levels are. When there are courses that cleverly explore folklore and history, or play with size, scale, and shape in really exciting ways, visiting a level where your task is to make something relatively large in 8 minutes somehow becomes mundane. Ultimately, this is a reflection of Once Upon a Katamari's largest issue. It just doesn't push the envelope enough for me. While there are no series quite like Katamari, there are plenty of titles that do something somewhat similar, that make room for people of all ages to enter a strange little world and play within it as casually or sweatily as they desire. What ultimately sets them apart and determines which ones stick with you or merely become another entry is if they can successfully create these regular moments of delight that showcase their playfulness and innovation. And while certain moments of Once Upon a Katamari are joy-inducing and memorable, I find myself wishing the game fired on that level consistently. That said, Once Upon a Katamari is still a fantastic time and the new must-play title in the series. It manages to perfectly capture what has always made Katamari so charming and special: the writing, the humor, the music, the sheer absurdity of it all, and refines it into the best way to experience the series, regardless of if it's your first time playing or if you're a longtime fan. Though it seems strange to claim I wanted Bandai Namco to commit even more to the bit with this game, more intention and innovation is all that keeps Once Upon a Katamari from being truly great. Regardless, it's still a wonderful and much welcomed return to the world of Katamari.